I'm Amber, and today we are going to be reviewing Christine Ricci's Again But Better. I wanted to start this review off by saying that I had read this book way after it came out, and she's releasing her second book literally as she released it yesterday, and that one is coming in the mail. But I didn't know what I was getting into when reading this book. Even before I had gotten it, I watched a lot of reviews just to kind of see what it was about because I had been hearing mixed reviews about YouTubers writing books and their styles just not being, I guess, what people had expected. And there was a lot of just negativity, I feel, going towards the idea of YouTubers writing books. And so I wasn't sure if I was going to give this book a chance. I had seen Christine's videos for years now, and I loved her and I loved her personality, but I didn't know how she was as a writer. But I definitely wanted to support, and I definitely liked the idea of YouTubers writing books. So I thought, why not? It's eventually time, and I read it, and I actually really loved it. I think I read it at a time in my life when I just really needed a nice, happy contemporary, and I think that's where there's some mixed reactions from people that maybe it was too peppy, too perky, too everything wrapped in a nice little bow. And I feel like that in like a certain point in your life can be just what you need. It's so warm and humble and cutesy, but at the same time, it tackles on some real interesting issues that I don't see a lot of books going into. I think that this book was really refreshing in that it told the story through a very optimistic point of view. Shane is very much a character who grew up not experiencing the world like everyone else did. She didn't get to do a lot of the things she wanted, and was very shy and not as outgoing as people today are used to. I just feel the case with literature today that a lot of books are focusing on ideas of empowerment and spreading awareness, and focusing on social issues and all those types of things, and it's great. I feel like in the process it also othered a lot of new books that didn't incorporate those ideas, and I feel like this book ended up being one of them. I think that was a real shame because as much as we need empowering books and novels and magazines and everything else, we also need a little bit of diversity, and not everything can be about that. We also need something to just sit down and relate with and feel happy with. And I think that this book is just a good thing for that. I think it really falls into that category of just good feeling books. Sit down outside, it's sunny, it's summertime. I want something that's going to make me feel good. I don't think we should criticize an author or someone's writing, and I'm not directing this at anyone, it's just a topic of conversation. Just because they write something that may be a little different from all the things coming out today. And when we really think about it, like how many books did we read just for fun back in the day, just for the story of it, and we didn't focus too much on all the inconsistencies with things going on today? Like there's a lot of books today that characters weren't the protagonist wasn't outgoing, and we just read them because they were relatable, because the story was captivating. And I just think we need a few of those. I think we need books we can just read and not focus on those things too much, and just relax and take a breather, like a nice chill book to just take a break and read. And also, to touch on one of my earlier points, I feel like understanding a character's background and understanding a person's background is very important. We live in a very diverse world. Not everyone grew up the same. And that's one of the things that we are trying to encourage people to understand. But I feel in the case of literature, that we are focusing so much on these ideas and trying to put forth so much attention on these ideas that characters such as Shane kind of are put on the back burner because they don't fit that mold of these empowering characters and how they grow up and how they show they're empowering, which I feel Shane ends up being this very empowering individual. She learns a lot. It's very much a coming of age story, even if she is an adult. I think that's what makes this book really relatable for me, because I'm very much a child at heart, and I just relate to Shane so much in that she is learning things at her own pace, figuring out the world at her own pace and in her own way. And I don't think that we talk a lot about that happening to people, or I think it's in a lot of ways it's frowned upon because they are not acting adult enough, they're not mature enough. And again, people grow up differently. People have different backgrounds, and that doesn't mean that they're not mature enough or that they don't grow up. And you can totally 100% be a child at heart and be a grown up and be like, people keep learning, people keep growing. So I just feel that this shouldn't be a touchy subject, and I feel that in and if any way one is criticizing this book, that they are heavily criticizing the writer. um Christine has mentioned in several videos that this book very much reflects things that happen in her own life. It is very much her own story. And if you see her videos, you can see that she is very much a very bubbly, happy person. She's not afraid to be silly and out there and goofy. And she's an adult, you know? And so I think it's a real shame to judge one's character through their writing. That's all I had to say about that. But even if you're not going through a midlife or quarter life crisis in your life like I was when I read this book, I think just in general, it is a very fun and lighthearted book that you will truly enjoy or relate to, even in the smallest amount. And it's just a nice break and a nice thing to read. I think we all need something that's just very lighthearted and fun nowadays, and I think that this book really encompasses that. So, this is when the spoilers come. Maybe, possibly. So, just warning you. But Shane is taking a risk by applying to a creative writing program abroad. Her parents think that she is going to a pre-med program, and that is not the case. She just kind of wanted to take a break and do something that she loved for once before she ends up spending the rest of her life doing what her parents want. And in the process, she ends up discovering a lot about herself. She ends up finding love. She ends up making best friends, going on all these crazy adventures. And then there ends up being this whole, like, magical element to it that no one saw coming, but like I read reviews and stuff, so I kind of saw it coming, but I wasn't sure how that element was going to be tied in because it is set in the real world. But she tied it in very nicely. It came in such a wonderfully cliche and beautiful moment in the book. This book is highly cliche on all levels in the best way. I think that's one of the things that people have trouble getting used to. But I think that in a contemporary, it is highly acceptable. And in this book, it is done beautifully. So the story starts out with Shane going on the plane, and she's making a list of all the things she wants to achieve when studying abroad, and the person sitting next to her is kind of like eavesdropping and looking over her shoulder and reading her list and kind of questioning her, and Shane kind of finds it a little bit weird, but then later on, like, that person ends up mysteriously like showing up more, and it ends up kind of like leading up to the whole magical event. But like right off the bat, when Shane goes to the place that she is supposed to be staying at, she meets her friends. She meets her future love interest in the book. Well, it's not really the future because it happens pretty quickly. Which I will say, yes, it does happen pretty quickly. But then once it happens, it just kind of all just makes sense because it just, like, the process that it in which it happens is a little cringy in some ways, but like in good ways. And then I think like that was intentional, like, but then when we actually like have the moment when it's like boom, it happens. It's like wow, it happened. Great, awesome. This is everything I wanted and more. And then so they go on all these adventures. They go to Paris and they go to where else? I think they went to Rome and so many different places. And this lady keeps popping up, and Shane is going through her internship, and she ends up trying to just like impress everybody, and she tries her best, and thing the title again but better, I think, shows up in more ways than one in this book, not just with the overall climactic like situation. It shows up with her constantly trying again. She doesn't even have to. I'm not gonna spoil that part, but she doesn't have to. I can't not say it. She just keeps trying. That's basically what I'm saying. Though I probably already spoiled it. I don't know. But I think that in her constantly trying and doing her best and trying to do everything that she loves and just have the most ultimate best time there is just a real wonderful quality about her, and it's very endearing. And then her friends are just they remind me a lot of my friends in that they have different personalities, and they just end up being like so supportive of her, even like though she's not quite sure at times if they like her or not. And it's so funny because like those overthinking moments is just like they're so relatable. And so just to have that support, and then when she goes through that situation with her parents, and her parents, oh my goodness, her parents, um they love her, and it's very clear that they love her. But I was a little hesitant when going into the chapter when her parents ended up coming, because that was a very cringy chapter for me, because I was like, this is a way too much. They're blowing everything way out of proportion. And then as I was reading more of it, I was able to kind of like understand. I maybe wouldn't have wrote it that way. And there was some things that they called her a lot of horrible things, especially her dad, that I was just like, no father would ever, I mean, no good father would ever call. But like, I feel like after those moments happened, Christine did a really good job of kind of like explaining why they happened, not like explain, but you kind of understood later why certain things happened, and it made it more understandable for us as a reader. I'm trying not to spoil too much, but I feel like I am, and I'm just like hesitant about it. But like, I want to say it, but then I don't want to say too much. I kind of want to leave you guys so it's like you're not gonna have the whole story. Um, and so, in that moment, she ends up learning that she has all of this support from all her friends, and it's really funny because it's also the moment when Pilot's girlfriend, I can tell that part. He has a girlfriend, shows up, and she's just awkwardly there. She gets invited kind of by accident, and it's just like, well then, that happened. And then like the fact that his girlfriend ends up coming later on in the night and is reading Shane's notebook journal, and like she kind of like is confronting her about it, and it's just, why would you do that to a person after everything they've been through? Like, if you know it's her, like, why? Like, couldn't you have saved it for another day? Like, why would you do that to a person? um After yeah, I'm just gonna spoil it. After they go back in time, I mean, like, we skipped a whole couple of years, and then they're adults. And for a second, it takes a while for us to kind of put ourselves in that moment and be like, oh, they're adults. Well, they were adults before, but like they're older, you know? And so then to be thrown back to that time, and they're obviously more educated about life at this point. They've been through stuff. They've been through life in their they're in their younger bodies, but in their mind they're older. They've done stuff, and like to see how much more they know about things and how they handle things differently is just really interesting. And then when Shane like tackles everything that she's gone through and like ends up realizing that maybe she's not handling things the best way the second time around either. It shows a lot about her as a person and her growth and people in general. Like, you're not always gonna figure everything out if you can do it again, you know, or you keep learning, you keep growing. It's a process. I didn't particularly like Pilot once they went back in time. I felt like it was one of those moments like with the parents. Like, it was a little bit cringy, and it was a little bit like, dude, like, don't treat her like that. Like, no, you don't treat a woman like that. You don't treat anyone like that. Like, no. Um, and so I felt like he had it easy when she forgave him a little bit. I mean, I get it. Like, it made sense, but at the same time, it was just like, I needed a little. You need to redeem yourself just a little bit more, because I don't like the way you treated her, and I don't think it's okay. And I think there's more to your character that we didn't exactly find out. Like, there is something that happened to you between the time of the end of the study abroad trip and then when we fast forward to when you were older. Like, some kind of issue happened because you have anger issues now. So like, I'm just not okay with it. Um, and then he ends up being really sweet, and I'm just like, you're really sweet, but dude, like, can we go back to that? Can we talk about that? But it all ends up being okay. But I would have liked a little bit more time for that to settle and us to figure it out. I feel like towards the end, it felt like very much like a movie. This book very much felt like a movie, but like it felt very much like a movie in that when the things started happening, when she started figuring everything out, it happened very fast. And I think for in a book, it was just like, hold on, like I need this to marinate a little bit more, you know? Like in a movie, it's just like that's when the scene where they play the music and they're just like we're doing this, you know? But I feel like in that moment in the book, it was just like I need to pause and to see what is going on, you know? But I was overall very happy that everything worked out. I think it was the last chapter or what was it? Looking for it, looking for it. Not that one, not that one, not that one. The epilogue. I couldn't remember the word epilogue. Okay. Anyway, so in the epilogue, it's like a fan reviewing her and writing a blog that she met her, and she's now like a famous author and everything. Um, I I feel like it was the way it was set up was a little hard to read. I read like a blog, but it was hard to read it in book print. At the same time, I didn't exactly know if it was Shane or someone else until like I read, oh, it was someone else. So it just kind of threw me for a loop. But then once I started reading, I was like, oh, okay, you know. And then there was stuff like she noticed, but obviously, like she noticed it. Like we weren't in Shane's point of view anymore. Like we couldn't see what Shane was seeing, but like I wanted to see what Shane was seeing because we were only seeing like certain things going on. I was just like, I want to know what really is going on. But everything was okay with her parents now. Everything was good, and so like that was great. I think there was just like overall there was a lot of interesting moments in this book and interesting dynamics between characters. I really like the color, the character, babe. I'm sorry, I'm just talking way too fast, but I feel like I just took up way too much time in the beginning, but it needed to be said. I just feel like she's just so sweet, and I love that she loves all things Disney. I feel like the pop culture references in here were just done amazingly. Like, if I feel like if you put too much pop culture references in a book, it sometimes becomes a little too cringy. But I feel like in this book, it was done in just the right way, and it felt very much like you were talking to Christine because she talks a lot like this, and like it felt like you were talking to a friend the way she wrote it. It wasn't just like it was thrown all over the place. It felt like it belonged. But I love the character of Babe. I loved Atticus. I loved beginning pilot and after pilot. That one guy who was a total jerk face. I did not like him. The guy Babe was into for a little bit. No, did not like him. The whole magical being lady that ended up giving them the locket. In her fun and whimsical ways. I really liked her. And I loved that she got in contact with her cousin in the second time around and was able to really bond with him. I feel like the ideas of family and self growth and adventure that were in this book were just wonderfully done. And I cannot wait to read her new book, Better Together. It came out yesterday, and I'm just really excited for it. So, thank you so much for watching. Wow, 20 something minutes for my first book review. Doing great. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. Bye!